This bill tells members of Congress that if on Memorial Day or Veterans Day, when they go out and they meet with veterans and their families, that if a member of Congress, member of the Senate, bumps into a young veteran who is in a wheelchair, who because of a war-related injury is unable to have a baby and start the family that he or she wanted to do. Some of those injuries may be spinal cord, some of them may have taken place in the genital region, but for whatever reason, we have over 2,000 veterans in this country today who are unable to naturally have babies, and many of them want families. If a member of the Senate wants to look that veteran in the eye and say to him or her that you think we cannot afford to help that individual who sacrificed so much for this country have a family, well, you go do that. You tell that individual that you think we cannot afford to help him or her. But when you do that, I hope you will also tell him why you voted to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 2%. At a time when the wealthiest people in this country are doing phenomenally well. Virtually all of my Republican colleagues thought it was appropriate to provide huge tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires. So when you speak to that young veteran who can no longer have a child and you're going to explain why we can't afford to help that family, tell them that it was okay to vote for tax breaks for the Koch brothers or the Walton family, but you didn't have enough money to help them start a family. If you as a senator see a 70-year-old woman or 75-year-old woman pushing a wheelchair for a veteran who lost his legs in Vietnam, tell that woman, have the courage, have the honesty to tell that woman that we cannot extend the caregiver benefits to her that we have quite appropriately for the post-9/11 veterans. Tell that woman who may be taking care of that disabled vet 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, who lives under enormous stress, that we don't have the resources to help her with a modest stipend. We don't have the resources as the United States government to maybe have a nurse come in once a week to relieve her. We don't have the resources to give her some technical help for herself, for her husband. Explain to her that we cannot afford to do that. But then, in the same breath, if you please, explain how you can support a situation where 1 out of 4 corporations in this country does not pay a nickel in federal income taxes. Okay, for General Electric, some of the largest corporations in the world, in a given year, not to pay a penny in federal income tax, but we somehow don't have the money to give a little bit of help to 70, 75-year-old wives who are working 24/7 to give support to their loved ones. I say to my fellow senators, if you happen to meet a veteran who's trying to get by on $28,000, $30,000, $35,000 a year, and you notice that the teeth in his mouth are rotting, if you notice that that person may not have health insurance, one of the million of veterans in this country who has no health insurance, I want you to go up to that veteran and have the courage, the honesty, to tell him that you believe that the United States of America does not have the money to take care of his needs, to get him VA health care, to help him fix his teeth, but explain to him why you may have voted for more than $100 billion in tax breaks for the wealthiest 0.3%, because you think we should repeal the estate tax that only applies to the wealthiest 0.3%, the wealthiest of the wealthy. You are prepared to vote, and virtually all Republicans are, to give millionaires and billionaire families, the wealthiest of the wealthy, top 0.3%, $100 billion in tax breaks, but we are not prepared. We supposedly don't have the money to get VA health care for somebody making $28,000, $30,000, or dental care for somebody whose teeth are rotting in his mouth. You go explain that. Have the honesty. Be courageous. Say, yeah, tax breaks for billionaires, but we don't have the resources to get you into VA health care. And I want you to explain to a young woman who left the military, maybe broken in spirit because she was raped or sexually assaulted while in the military, tell her that America doesn't have the resources to get her through the VA, the proper care that she needs to get her life back together after her sexual assault. Tell her that. And if you happen to meet a young man who was eligible for the post-9/11 GI Bill, who today cannot afford to go to college where he lives because he isn't eligible for in-state tuition there, and there's a gap between what the GI education bill pays and what is required in the state that he's living of $10,000, can't afford it, can't go to college, explain to him that you don't have the money to help him. And if you bump into an older veteran, we have heard some discussion in the last couple of days that the VA lacks adequate health care facilities. We don't have enough around the country. Well, this legislation that we're voting on right now, that in fact was already passed in the House, provides for the VA to enter into leases for 27 medical facilities all across this country in 18 different states. Tell that 70-year-old veteran or the 80-year-old veteran who wants access to primary health care near where he lives that we do not have the resources to provide that primary care, but we can spend billions of dollars rebuilding the infrastructure in Afghanistan, where most of that money is stolen by a corrupt leadership. And maybe, colleagues, one of you will see a young veteran, one of hundreds of thousands of veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan who are dealing with PTSD or traumatic brain injury, or maybe it's a young man who has come back and just can't find a job in this very, very tough economy. And go up to him and say, yeah, tax breaks for the rich are great. Corporations not paying taxes, that's okay. But I don't believe that we should be providing help to you.
American soldiers, yeah. Our flag is red, white, and blue. Love you so much, America.